It's time to say goodbye to censorship, which was flying high over the United States for years. But now, only tears for the gatekeepers. Elon Musk has won, and Mark Zuckerberg is ready to join him in having community notes, not political fact checkers, making sure that you cannot say what you wish to say online or anywhere. Folks, a new era is dawning. The censors are being told, get zucked. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. And yes, get zucked. Z-U-C-K-E-D. Z-U-C-K-E-D. That's it. Put it on a shirt, folks. We love it. We want you to say it because Zuckerberg has decided he will follow Elon Musk. He will follow Bezos. He will follow Tim Cook in moderating his business. Finally, he decides that he will be a supporter of free speech, free discourse. Is it too late? Is it too little? Well, that is for you to decide. But folks, we have a panel ready to debate the issue. Free speech, may it reign ever once more. Folks, click the like button, and here we go. Fox News is reporting that Meta has ended fact-checking program, and the Zuckerberg vows to restore free expression on Facebook and Instagram. He's so brave, that Zuckerberg. He waited literally until he was forced to do this, essentially. Like after everybody else had taken, a risk in their life to do this or had taken some sort of financial risk, finally Zuckerberg's like, yes, I will defend free expression now that literally everyone else is doing it. Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer, Joel Kaplan, talked to Fox and Friends about it. This is by Brooke Singman. Says Meta is ending its fact-checking program and lifting restrictions on speech to, quote, restore free expression, unquote, across Facebook, Instagram, and Meta platforms, admitting its current content moderation practices have gone too far. Now, of course, they hadn't gone too far when the government was saying, this is what you're going to do, Zuck. Remember? And by the way, don't forget that the government, when Elon refused to do what Zuck was willing to do, all of a sudden, Elon Musk, all of his companies were being investigated by the U.S. government in what is clearly now retaliatory. Zuck didn't want to have retaliation against him. He wanted to play nice with those who wanted to chase after what they were doing over in China. Well, we now have the statement from Zuckerberg about this. And, it's hard to be too harsh on Zuckerberg. I think it's necessary because to whom much is given, much is required. And he was given much with Facebook. And he dropped the ball. He did not protect freedom of speech in the digital town square, but at least he's correcting it now. It's obvious to do it now, but at least he's doing it. Here's his statement. We'll play it, then we'll see what the panel has to say about it. Benny Johnson is carrying this one. He says, breaking, Mark Zuckerberg announces sweeping changes to Facebook and Instagram to move toward free speech, including, and it goes on to talk about it. Essentially, he's copying Elon Musk. But here is the Zuck with what he has to say.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship.
I'm ready now for him to admit that The Last Jedi was not popular and it was not, in fact, Russian bots and trolls that were supporting it and destroying the rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Ron, I'll start with you and just ask, is this not fascinating how fast things are changing? I mean, this even is catching me off guard, just how quickly the world's quote-unquote elites are willing to completely philosophically change in order to catch up with the order of the day.
Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they're I don't know if they're listening to the voice of the people or if they're just going with the shift in the winds. It's very, very difficult. It's the most difficult thing to tell if any of these people are at all genuine. Of course, anybody can come across and sound genuine on a microphone, on a platform. I think people are watching shows like this. I became a fan. I'm on here because of Valiant Renegade when that started a few years ago, and UPro, Jonas, Culture. I'm here because I got sick and tired of not even knowing what the truth was that was put out by people like Zuckerberg, people like Jeff Bezos, any of the mainstream legacy media, any of that kind of stuff, even Fox News. All right, I just can't trust them anymore. But the thing about voices like ours is that we don't really have a choice. We only need to be genuine. We only need to be ourselves. We have no motivation in being anything other than truthful to what we believe in our own honesty. It is difficult to sort through the truth, but yeah, it is changing. It's changing fast. It's blowing with it. This reminds me of, and I know that it may not be in the story, but I think it relates, and that is the new Captain America movie. If you remember, at first it was called The New World Order, and when they saw that there was a shift going on, it changed names to what is it, Brave New World? Will it change names again before it comes out in February? It's certainly doing reshoots. I don't know, but it is very, very. It's just hard to tell the genuineness of anybody out there. Like when you look at the media today and how they covered for, even Biden's health issues, let's just say cognitive issues over the last few years. And now they're kind of all blaming each other that they didn't, and we didn't really cover it up. And this is, I mean, it's so disingenuous that it is just hard to tell if any of this is real or if they're just pretending to go along with the crowd until January 20th. And then what happens after that?
Well, there's one thing I can say for sure, Ron. You're sharp as a tack. I don't care what they say. You, sir, you're sharp as a tack. Remember, that was what they said about the president, President Biden. Was he sharp as a tack? Sharp as a tack. That was the phrase used over and over. Let's watch a little bit more, and then I want to come to you, Matt, about this copycat system that Zuck is doing with Musk. Here's a little bit more, folks.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
Which would indicate that free expression was not available on the platforms.
More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US.
Okay, let's just stop there. This is what blows me away. Matt, he's literally coming out now and saying, we're going to do exactly what X is doing. As X is doing it, we're just going to straight up copy them, and I'm going to give Musk the credit for it. This is mind-boggling that we are literally playing follow the leader now, and Elon Musk is the leader. Matt, how close did we come and to losing free speech, do you think? And how successful should we consider Musk to have been in purchasing X?
We had lost free speech for a while there. It wasn't until Elon kind of stepped in and got Twitter and broke it out of that kind of like Silicon Valley stranglehold that people were actually starting to break through the mold. And once truth gets out there, it's hard for the others to keep up the facade. The issue here, though, is I really do, this might be an unpopular opinion, but, I feel like Zuckerberg has always been kind of more aligned with Elon in terms of like, free speech and him wanting his platform to, be like a beacon of truth, kind of like how X has become. He's given speeches about that type of thing before. That the issue really came down to the fact that he was essentially bullied into handing his platform over to the government, like all this stuff with the NGOs that's now coming out, the censorship apparatus of, the deep state and all these things that are now being brought to light. In fact, I forget that one guy. He's the guy who invented Netscape, Aberdeen or something like that. When he was on Joe Rogan, he basically laid out, and he's on the board of Meta. And basically, the Biden administration put the fear of God into these people, where they felt like there was nothing they could do. The FBI, the CIA, all these government organizations were literally like, some ex-members were, on the board of Meta, and they were like, pushing this narrative. And the Democrats called out Zuckerberg to be put in front of like their firing squad in Congress, along with Jack Dorsey and stuff like that. And both sides were unhappy with them, but the Democrats were in a position to actually make their life like living hell. And I think that's why they kind of went along with it, is just because, like, as smart business, like, you go along with the people who are in power and the people who are going to be coming after you.
So you think then that Musk was exceedingly exceptional in taking a stand that put him and his businesses at tremendous risk to do this?
Well, here's the thing with Musk, though. Musk had a number of government contracts that the government was actually reliant on Musk, where they couldn't tell him what to do.
SpaceX.
Well, yeah, not just with SpaceX, but also with, like, the Green Initiative with Tesla and a bunch of other stuff. In fact, the government was actually going to be deploying Starlink to rural areas before, like, he ran afoul of them. But essentially, like, Musk was untouchable. And so that gave him the leeway to kind of do what he did. Whereas I feel like Mark Zuckerberg and the Silicon Valley bros that kind of run Meta were kind of more like, okay, well, like, we're part of the tribe. We don't want to make any waves, so we'll just go along with what they're doing. It was actually kind of smart business sense. And now that those people are out of power, I think Zuckerberg, and to some extent, like, people like Jack Dorsey and Aberdeen and like all these other Silicon Valley bros that were far leftist to begin with, are now kind of seeing like, okay, it's actually better to err on the side of free speech and, kind of like align themselves with the populist movement and stuff like that. Because all these platforms are dependent upon their user base. And with X being, the free speech platform, people are flocking there to get their news. And if you notice, like, all like the celebrities and news people that left to go to like Threads or Blue Sky or whatever, there's no one over there. So they're coming back. And Netflix, and I feel like Meta, in particular, Instagram and Facebook, they see that, like, it's actually better business to be free speech and non-censoring. And if you look at like that first announcement that you put up there, Pro, where he basically said we're getting rid of third-party fact checkers. I watched a news story this morning with like his head kind of like community manager guy, where they basically said, like, yeah, we came to realize that a lot of these third-party fact checkers were too political. It's like they knew it from the beginning. Those fact checkers were installed because they were political.
Right.
But Elon Musk, like, he did the proof of concept, and Facebook, Meta, and Zuckerberg has a long history of looking at stuff that's already working and then acquiring it. Like, Instagram was its own company before, like, Facebook bought it out. They tried to buy out Snapchat and all this other stuff. And if they can't buy it, they adopt it for.
I believe you're describing the Microsoft model, sir.
Exactly. So, like, I feel like now that Elon has kind of like created the model for community moderation, it makes sense for a platform like Meta, which is way bigger than X. Like, they got something like 400 million users, right? Between Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and all this other stuff. And so, like, to just take what's already working and then, like, maybe tweak it a little bit and apply it to their own system, that makes sense to me. But I do think that this isn't coming from the fact that, like, they're like, oh, Democrats got shellacked in the last election, we need to do this. I feel like it's coming from a genuine place where it's like they didn't like what they were being forced to do before. And now that they're no longer going to be forced to do it, they want to get back to kind of like what they want to do. And Zuckerberg in particular is interesting, because I don't know if you guys have noticed his transformation from like a Silicon Valley robot to like a dude bro who's into MMA and, the wild hair and the surfing and all that other stuff. So there's definitely like a shift going on with him. But not only that, but also like the board members of Meta, I think, saw the dangers of the Biden totalitarian Democrat regime and realized that, like, okay, we need to put stuff in place now that we're not being bullied in order to prevent that from ever happening again. I think this is a first step for Meta. It's more of a business decision than anything, in my opinion.
I think Dana White joining the board of Meta is going to be incredibly interesting going forward. I think that was probably the best name that you could put forward of someone who has some level of large business experience and has the trust of someone like a Joe Rogan. Like, there is mass market appeal to the UFC without it being like he is a Trump guy, but that's not his only brand.
Yeah, but I think you might also see them kind of purging a lot of these former FBI people who are now working at Meta, and also like a lot of former Obama and Biden people who have positions at the company. You might see those people leave.
Mm-hmm. And it's good. We need to get the propagandists out, because the propagandists, they're sort of the antithesis of what takes you to a healthier society, because society and the well-being of others is not at the highest priority. It's a power narrative that they're playing with. Erica, as someone who lives abroad, the way that free speech operates in other countries is, well, sometimes there's not free speech at all, and sometimes it's actually codified into the rules and the laws of the countries. So how do you think this is going to play out internationally? Do you think that this will begin to influence, for example, European countries like the UK or like Germany, or do you think that this will be limited to the United States only?
I think for now it's going to be limited to the United States. Some European countries have a ways to go. They're stuck in their ways. They're stuck in being on the right side of history and whatever ideology they want to follow right now. As a Cuban, my initial reaction to this is, how did you even let yourself get there to begin with? Like, at what point does common sense not enter into your business decisions? When you have the federal government interjecting itself, bullying you around, telling you what you can and can't do, like, put 2 and 2 together. You cannot possibly be that stupid. I mean,
they're under the mistaken belief that the government can be a force for good, as opposed to a curse that we all have to bear in order to live in a free society.
And some of them worship the state. Go ahead, Erica.
I get so angry at that, because maybe it's just because the family I come from. I don't know. I mean, maybe what's common sense for us isn't for other people. But I hope that this is for real. And I wish, or I thought there was something in place, like we have separation of church and state. Don't we have something like that, where separation of corporate and government? I mean, like, the two should not be in bed together like that, the way they have been. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And
right. It's also gotten into the runaround of they aren't allowed to illegally search and seize anything that belongs to you. They're not allowed to do warrantless searches. But if they're partnering with a company that's doing that and they hand over the information willingly, that's been an area where the government has had way too much leeway to do things that I would say are clearly unconstitutional for too long.
Well, as far as the international side of it, the UK is just, they're a royal mess right now. And I don't know. I have no clue what Zuckerberg is going to do working with their government, and as for Germany, because of the language barrier, I'm really not in the know of how Germany is doing in terms of social media. I know, just for my own protection, I am very careful of what I say on social media because of all this crap, like, I don't want to get caught up in it. I just want to live my quiet life. I want to do what I want, and just get off my back, and let me live my life.
I think the big difference here, especially when it comes to Europe, the EU, the UK, stuff like that, is that once Trump is in office, like, Elon has his ear, he's going to know how to apply the right type of pressure to get these countries to start falling in line. Especially like if you take the example in Brazil, where basically you had this like out of control judge / tyrant who was basically trying to like silence X, right? Once Trump is in power, he's going to be able to get that country to fall in line. Otherwise, they're going to pay penalties, and same thing with Europe. And that's one of the reasons why Trump is so unpopular abroad. And it's not because he's or something like that. It's because he knows how to win. And so, like, already you're starting to see people in Germany, the leadership in Germany, talking about like they're looking forward to Trump coming back in. Same thing with Turkey and all these other countries that want strong leadership from the United States, because when there's weak leadership in the United States, you get this mess abroad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask a question then, Matt, because you and I usually see eye to eye on political issues. What do you think about the saber rattling coming from the UK and Starmer and saying they're going to come over here and arrest us in America?
And as you answer that, let me say this. I would not be surprised if things start changing very quickly as we watch the dominoes continue. This is a poll that was put out by Good Morning Britain.
Yep.
I'm not thinking they believe they would have this result.
No.
But Good Morning Britain put out a poll. Should Elon Musk stay out of British politics? 66% said no. They want him in British politics. So the world is changing quickly. Okay, now with that understanding, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just was curious, Matt, because with that also in mind, the narrative over there that's spun by the state media in the UK is that the people don't want Elon Musk interfering in their politics. And of course, the polar opposite for somebody like George Soros. So with that in mind, well,
the ruling class in the UK doesn't want Elon interfering because he's speaking to the people, right? And they can't censor him. The real issue over there is immigration, because there's been so much stuff about these gangs of immigrants who are
unfortunate people doing things that we're not going to talk about on the show, but I think everybody knows what horrible things are going on.
And it's a big scandal because the guy who's currently the prime minister was the guy who basically hid this from the public for years, and to the tune where you have hundreds of thousands of victims, right? And so at a certain point, the people in the UK are going to get fed up, and the ruling class over there knows this. And with Elon out there kind of leading the charge, and soon once Trump gets into power and him being able to apply economic pressure and sanctions and all types of other things if he wants to, the ruling class is going to have nothing in their pocket to fight this with, and they're probably going to get voted out or replaced or something like that. But you can see it, by and large, that a lot of the residents of the UK are starting to get really, really upset about how they're being treated by their own government. So I think once America starts really pushing immigration reform and they start seeing deportations and all this other stuff, it's going to wake up a lot of these other countries where it's like, hey, why can't we be doing that? Because it seems to be working for them, right? They no longer have these problems that we have. So leading by example, and also, allowing the truth to get out there like Elon Musk does. Because all Elon's really doing is he's just exposing what's actually happening without the BBC being able to quash it or spin it or whatever. So I think that, especially when it comes to what's his name, two-tier Keir Starmer, the current
Herr Starmer.
Herr Starmer. He, culture, when you talk about oh yeah, we're going to arrest 300 million Americans or whatever. I mean, everyone knows that that's just bluster. He's just posturing, and he's ineffective, right? He's an ineffective prime minister. The U.S. could eat his lunch every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So I think this is more just him trying to save face than actual threats.
I think you're right. But the threat to so many who have tried to control the world now is that free speech is back, and it is the antiseptic to bad ideas. They are not short on any of those, but they might be short on time when it comes to power because they're being exposed now to criticism, and it's about time. And yet again, folks, we have come to the end. But what a video it has been, and we hope you agree. Folks, if you had a good time with us, consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. We care about your thoughts. Folks, we also want to invite you to partake in thatparkplace.com. Of course, www. You get the idea. Thatparkplace.com. It is the website telling the truth, and it is a rising star across the web for pop culture news coverage and analysis. Go over there and bookmark it today. Folks, we're bookmarking you as a great guest that we appreciate. Until the next time we have the honor of spending time with you, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, folks, you better believe it, keep having fun.